Good evening and welcome to Success in the City. I'm with the lovely
Sandra Scott. And our fabulous guest today is
Rachel Button from Sugar and Ice.
Welcome, Rachel.
Got to say, Rachel, that's like the coolest name ever
Rachel.
to have a cafe, isn't it?
It's a posh name, that, Rachel.
It's a lovely name. Thank you, Rachel. Rachel is super busy and has got loads going on, but has given her time. So massive thank you. And we will find out how busy she is and why she's busy in a little bit. But first, we shout out to the kids, any young people who've done amazing things. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first, Sam?
I'll go first if that's okay.
You're going to pinch mine.
Are you going to pinch little boy today?
Oh, no.
Okay, so I've got a shout out to Jake, who came all over the way from the Wirral to see me today and played on this Lou interactive playground and had an absolute ball. And he was very brave coming today, so I was delighted. So well done to Jake.
Well done. I am going to give two shout outs. I'm going to give one to a young man who we met yesterday called Cody. And I think he's in either year 7 or year 8. And we were lucky to be invited to the Palm House to the opening of the Birdcage exhibition. And he had made a bird table at home and taken it into his teacher and said, you know, I'm making this bird table at home. And she just embraced it and she was like, that's amazing. And it was gorgeous. I've shared a little poster, a picture of Cody, or I might not have done, I might have saved it for today. But he was lovely. And I said, oh, will you come and have your photograph taken by the bird table? And he came over and he was like really proud, but he was quite quiet, wasn't he? But he got lots of applause and it was there. So massive shout out to Cody, well done. It was gorgeous. And then I read the most gorgeous thing on, so Carol Clare is a good friend of ours. And there was a knock on the door and there was a dad and 2 little girls. And they have a card and a bar of dairy milk and they go round and see whose Christmas tree is or whose lights are the nicest in wherever they live. And then they go and knock and it said, dear neighbour, your Christmas tree's the best. Love from Evelyn, Gracie and Freddie the dad. And I thought, isn't that just a gorgeous thing? So Carol Clare won and the little ones. I thought, what a lovely thing for them to do, to go around and say which you like and then give a bar of chocolate to the winner. So they're my shout outs. Rachel, who's your shout out to?
So we had a birthday party in the cafe at the weekend. It was a 16th birthday party, so a little bit older than the people that you're talking about. There was 12 of them, and they were just the nicest bunch of kids that came in. You know, when it just warms your heart, and they were just lovely and very chatty, and came in, and I thought, oh, they'll go and get Cards Against Humanity out, and you know, and they went and got proper games out, and they were, you know, I was like, can I help you with the rules? They were quite happy to just go and figure it out for themselves. Just adorable. They probably wouldn't appreciate me saying that about them, but they were a lovely bunch of teenagers. So.
How lovely.
And what a cool thing to do. Where did you have your birthday party? It's a cool birthday party, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a good idea for a party, actually.
Yeah, and we'll find out a little bit more about where they've been and what they were doing a bit later on. But massive shout out to them at 16. It's a cool thing to do. Well done. Success this week for you personally. Do you want to go, Sam? Do you want me to go?
No, you go first because I'll have to have a think about that one.
Okay. So we went to the Palm House event yesterday and we made a bird that we put a little message on and that got hung up in there. And then we moved to the next table and made an origami crane. So the little bird, the crane and origami. So I was that delighted that I brought mine home. I didn't leave it there. You could hang it up on the birdcage. I brought mine home and was showing everybody. So I'm like dead made up with it. So that's downstairs. I meant to bring it up. I forgot. And on Thursday last week, I went to, so Phil bought tickets for the 2 of us to Ghost Stories by candlelight in the library. And these actors read out a traditional ghost story, and then there was two others, and it was like a horrible night, you know, lashing down with rain. It was windy, it was horrible. And
Terrifying.
it was, well, you know, I'm a little bit spooked by things, but it was brilliant, and the actors were great, and they read the stories to us. It was in Canberra, and then they turned all of the lights down, and it was like, oh, hey, this is a bit, you know, and all shadows and things are dancing around. But yes, it was a lovely little night. So we're trying to do little festive things every week.
Oh, that's the nice thing to do. Was it in the Hornby, in the reading room?
In the Hornby reading room, you know.
Gorgeous, absolutely beautiful up there, and it's what a great location for that though.
But you don't think of all these cool things that we've got in our, you know, I mean, we have got loads of cool things in our city.
So lucky to live here.
I've never been in that in the library. It was just lovely, you know, around the back in the Hornby room. Yeah.
When I was at the Palm House last night, I was just thinking how lucky we are to be here, you know, to live in an area with so much cultural stuff going on, you know. Well, okay, so I had a few successes, so work related really. So last Tuesday we had an open day at the school, which was a great success. Everyone loved it. That was cool. And then also we launched the course for the new year for January. This different courses, so that's cool as well. So all busy, which is nice.
Brilliant.
What about you, Rachel?
I've got a really silly one. I went to I went to Decathlon, and I only bought the item of thing that I wanted to go in for. I didn't buy anything else, and that felt like a bit. I walked out and sent my partner a message saying, "You'll never believe this. I only bought a swimming costume, which is what I went for." So, like,
Impressive.
I'm very proud of you on that, Rach. It's like the shop where you end up with, oh, I need one of those that I didn't realise that I need. It's like
everything looks really fun. Yeah.
I've never been in.
That's probably a good thing. Like,
I knew that had shocked you. I know I need trainers, but I don't know where to go for them.
It's amazing. Not for trainees though.
Oh right, okay then.
Well, you can buy kayaks, roller skates, anything else.
Yeah, other brands are available. Brilliant. Okay, we are going to play this or that.
Okay.
You go first, and I go first.
Go first.
Rachel. This will come a little bit clear in a minute. Okay. Cluedo or Monopoly?
Ooh. Probably Cluedo. Fewer family arguments with Cluedo, I think.
I'm not being funny, Rachel. It takes 3 seconds to play Cluedo. You solve it like that. I just don't understand how people get confused by Cluedo. It's the easiest game
for some people.
But Monopoly can take a long time, so I think there's a lot of benefits to Cluedo.
Yeah.
And it brings out the megalomaniac side of some people's character.
What would you play, San? Cluedo or Monopoly?
Cluedo, it's fun.
Cluedo.
No, Monopoly, obviously. Monopoly, hands down.
So I love Cluedo, but I love Monopoly. And we've got my dad's Monopoly from when he was little.
Oh.
So it must be 70-ish years old. So it's the board, and then there's a box, a separate box, and the box is sort of this size, and then everything's in the box, and the pieces are silver, like heavy, or all heavy silver pieces, and it's gorgeous. I love Monopoly, and I'm really good at cheating at it.
Oh, my mum's is like, oh no, I'm thinking of Scrabble. Ignore that.
Yeah, go on, Stan, your go.
Okay, would you rather play chess or drafts, Rachel?
Drafts. It's so much easier. So I know the theory of chess.
Again.
I'm not very good at chess. I'm a bit lazy. I can't be bothered to think that far ahead. So drafts all the way.
Oh
yeah, drafts for me. And we've got my dad's chess draft board. That is a piece of wood that they made, and then I've got all the counters and stuff. Yeah. Would you like chess, don't you, Sam?
I love chess. I'm not great at it, but I love it. I'm much drafts is over in 2 seconds as well. Yeah, there we go. Go on,
Rachel, you're having a piece of Victoria sponge cake. Would you rather have it with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee?
Tea all the way. That's the proper way.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Sam?
Victoria sponge cake with tea, chocolate cake with coffee.
Oh no. Any cake with tea. I'm not a lover of coffee and cakes and things. Yeah. Okay, go on. Your go, Sam.
Okay, Rachel, would you rather sit in on a Saturday afternoon and play a board game or go shopping?
Definitely play a board game. It's probably not a surprise to you, but yeah.
Hal?
It's a tricky one, that. Probably shopping. But I do love a board game.
I love playing board games as well, but I think on a Saturday afternoon, I'd rather go shopping. I think a board game for me is like a Sunday activity, definitely, or an evening activity. Yeah. Go on.
Okay. So I asked this online because we didn't do our show last week, which will lead into one of our red face moments. And I thought I'll just throw a little this and that out there. And this was a little bit of a mix. Mulled wine or hot cider, Rachel?
Mulled wine. This is so funny because I made mulled cider at the weekend at work and nobody bought it. Everyone, the mulled wine disappeared. People don't seem to like the cider. It is nice, but I would go wine first.
Yeah. What about you, Sam?
Mulled wine, hands down. But I've never ever had warm cider.
Yeah, I'd go more. I do like a hot cider, but mulled wine, hands down. I love mulled wine. I love it.
I'm gonna have a hot cider in Decathlon this week. Push it out there. I'm playing.
Go on, Sam. Your go.
Okay, so this is my last one.
Yeah.
Rachel, would you rather go ice skating or for a long walk?
Oh, that's really tough. Because I love both.
St. Luke's Church.
There is. So I do both. I think ice skating I don't do anywhere near as often, so that would be more exciting. So probably as a one-off, I'd go ice skating.
Are you a professional ice skater from when you were young?
No, I did do figure skating when I was very young, and then I played roller derby for many years, and then I went back to ice skate. So I've always done skating to some degree. But
okay, so I know we're going to find out about Rachel in a minute, and I don't know, Rachel, you do, but I need to know where she's from because she went ice skating and she can't have grown up here. Where did you grow up, Rachel?
I grew up I was sort of between Peterborough and Cambridge, so there was an ice rink about half an hour from us. So we went every week when we were growing up, had lessons, and it was quite a big deal for us. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
And roller derby's brutal.
Yeah, well, I stopped that when I became self-employed because I was like, can't afford any more broken bones. But roller is great fun. I just love skating. There's something about skating, going fast and having the wind in your hair is great.
Wow.
There we go.
I know. I don't think I've ever met a figure skater. Anyway.
I have.
Oh, is that it? Are we done? Oh, no, I'd rather go for a long walk. What would you rather do, Sam?
So I love the idea of ice skating, and I used to go to an ice rink. We used to have one in Liverpool when I was young in Shield Road in Kensington, and I used to go to that ice rink, but I'm still diabolical at it and was at the time, I could get around and no one would believe I went as much as I went to get to the basic standard I did. So figure skating, the concept of that's hilarious. There was a girl who lived in my road who worked for Disney, who was like, she traveled around like Disney on Ice. When I was flying, she was an ice skater and was known as Wendy Ice Skater. And she'd be like Cinderella or whatever the lead part was. But she was like that, and she was tiny, 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 tiny. And she got weighed. They had a weigh-in every week. You weren't allowed to put, so she literally would eat lettuce one day a week. And then when she told me the whole regime they went through, I thought, thank goodness I wasn't an ice skater. So yeah, lettuce on the weigh-in, they were just horrendous what they went through. Skaters, yeah. I don't know where she is now.
Oh. If anybody knows Wendy the ice skater who used to ice skate for Disney, give us a shout.
From North Barkham Road.
So we are super lucky to have Rachel with us tonight. Rachel has Sugar and Dice amongst other things that she does. I don't know Rachel, I've never met Rachel, but our Rachel Walker is on a course with Rachel and Mick's on the course as well.
Ah, right.
And Rachel said, oh, I've met this little girl called Rachel, and I said, oh, we've been in there because Sarah Jackson had her, did you have a second birthday party in there, didn't she? And we went in, so I was like, let's do it. So Rachel, it's over to you, and then Sandra and I will butt in at the same time. So how did you come to Liverpool from Peterborough, Oxfordshire, wherever you were, Cambridgeshire, and then how did you come up to Liverpool, and what do you do, and how did you get Sugar and Dice?
Yeah, so I came up to Liverpool in, I think it was 2009 to go to uni. So I went up to Edge Hill Uni. I did teacher training like everybody else does. And I was teaching secondary school design and technology. So primarily food technology, so teaching people how to cook. And I did that for about 3 years. And it just wasn't for me. It wasn't quite kind of bringing me the joy that I thought it was going to. And I'd always had from a very young age, I'd always had sort of been very good at baking, and people had always sort of said, oh, you're going to have a shop when you're older, you're going to have a cafe. And so I think it's something that had always kind of not been put upon me, but it was an idea that had been sort of fed to me. And I just got to a point where I was like, yeah, why don't I do that? And everyone thought I was mad for leaving teaching to open a cafe. So they were like, oh, you'll never earn as much money, or like, it's hard work working for yourself. And I was just like, I'm just going to do it.
Not as hard as teaching.
Well, yeah. And I went to a birthday party in Oxford at a board games cafe. And when you just see something and you're like, this is perfect. I was into board games. It was the cafe. It was a bit... There's so many good places to eat in Liverpool. And I was like, how do I make a cafe that's a bit different and, it will be successful? And I went to this board game cafe and I was like, this is two things that I love. I feel like Liverpool could support one of these, and I felt like it was going to be a good sort of addition to Liverpool. So it just kind of, it feels weird to think about it now. We've been open 7 years, and I just think, oh, how did I take that plunge? Like it almost turns my stomach now, thinking, gosh, that was a big risk. But yeah, so I left teaching, and it took a couple of years probably to kind of get going and get the premises and sort of open it up. But 7 years later, here I am. There was also another plan, probably from early teenage years, of wanting to be like a counsellor or a therapist or something like that. And that idea sort of grew alongside the cafe idea as well. And after, I think we'd been in the cafe a year, I started doing some psychotherapy training part-time. So for about, I think it was a 4-year course it was. So for 4 years, I did my psychotherapy training whilst running the cafe. And qualified a couple of years ago. So I've had a couple of years of running both the cafe and part-time working with clients part-time. And this is why I'm so busy. so juggling 2 different things and having 2 different hats on. And a lot of people kind of sort of say, oh, like they're 2 very different jobs. But to me, they're both about people. Yeah. So obviously the psychotherapy side is... I am quite a playful therapist, I think, but but it is a serious job, and we're talking about some quite serious, heavy stuff. But then I've got my cafe job to go to, where people are laughing and joking and sometimes being quite noisy, but in a good way. And but again, it's about supporting people and facilitating connections between people and creating a space where people can meet up and play. So there is an overlap in my mind. But yeah, they're very different jobs, but I think they work well together.
Definitely. So for people who don't know where the cafe is, how did you find such a cool space?
I don't really remember. I remember we were looking at lots of different places, and I just came across the little unit. So we're sort of in the Baltic Triangle, but not quite, tucked behind the Scandinavian Church. So we're kind of a little bit off the beaten track. But if you know about board games, like the people that knew about board games found us immediately. It was, so we've been really lucky because I haven't had to push it too much, and people have always sort of found us. But it's a little space. But that was kind of what attracted me to it, because I didn't want somewhere too big. I wanted it to be quite cozy and quite intimate. From my perspective, it means that I can be in the cafe and I can sort of see everybody that's in there, in that, that person's just picked up the menu. I know they're probably thinking about ordering something, or they've picked up a rule book, so they're stuck and I'll go and give them a hand. And it just means that we can sort of help people as much as possible. I think if it got any bigger, I think we'd lose that. And I don't want to lose that. I think that's a really nice element to it.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, sort of talk about what it is and so
how it works.
And how it works.
So in all intents and purposes, we're a cafe. So we've got, it's a small space. So we've got toasties and nachos, and we're about to have burgers. That's coming soon. We also have an alcohol license, so we've got beers from a local brewery. We've got very small kind of spirits selection, so it's not about drinking, but we've got kind of drinks on offer. But then we have a big library of board games at the back of the cafe. So I think we've got just over 500 different board games on this big wall.
And Rachel, for those who haven't been to understand that, it literally covers the whole back wall of the cafe, because I've been, and it's really cool. Because you think people go places and they've got a selection of board games at like 4 or 5. This is, and it's every game. You've never seen some of them or heard of them. The whole back wall's covered in board games, isn't it? From all over the world, and it's really interesting. Sorry, right, carry on.
Okay. Yeah, so there's over 500 board games, which actually to me is a small collection. People come in and I think they're quite overwhelmed and not sure where to start. But because we're such a small space, it's quite a curated collection. So anything that doesn't really get played goes to charity, and then it gets replaced with something, maybe newer and hotter. And like you say, that these games come from all over. A lot of people don't know, like the Booker Prize for books. There's a Spiel des Jahres, the Game of the Year award every year, and that these games will sell millions of copies every year, whichever game wins. And there's usually about 9 recommendations for different categories, and there's new games being made all the time, and it's every kind of concept that you could ever imagine. There's a board game about it, and it's just, and that's what I love about it. It's so creative.
How do you find that? So Lamara's listening in. So hiya, Lamara. And she says, I've been, it's amazing. My brother used to live in the apartments above. So Lamara's been in. So how do you find out about, how do the board games get to be in Sugar and Dice?
So we go to, every year in the UK, there is the UK Games Expo. So there's a huge expo in the Birmingham NEC. It's massive. That's usually the end of May, early June. You've never seen anything like it. It's like I spend so much money at this expo. I actually take my partner along with some IKEA bags, and he's my mule. So I'll buy all these games and he has to carry them around for me all day. So yeah, going to different expos. I actually treated myself last year, and I went to an expo in Canada, which was really cool because so obviously there's the UK Games Expo, but the one in Canada, there were a lot of American publishers, so it kind of introduced me to some games that we might not have got otherwise. So a lot of games come from there. Generally, it's just kind of a little bit of research. So the wholesalers obviously send a lot of information about what games are coming up. But I also spend a ridiculous amount of money on Kickstarter. So, and Kickstarter knows that I like games. So it'll be like, oh, you bought this pretty game about animals. You might like this one. And I'm terrible. I'll just be like, yeah, that sounds good. So we get them from a range of different places.
Is there a criteria of what they need to meet to get a space in the cafe?
Not necessarily, but there's definitely games that are more popular. So, anything that takes more than 2-3 hours, I probably wouldn't put it in the cafe because they don't get played. I think the kind of people that come to the cafe really want those gateway games. So something that lasts half an hour to an hour. You're not going to spend half an hour reading a rule book. It's something that you can dive into pretty quickly. So that's the kind of thing that I look for. We have got some longer games, but generally we try and keep them to around an hour playtime, just so that people can come and enjoy 2 or 3 each visit.
Amazing. So Leon's listening in. So Leon's been a previous guest of ours, and he says, Board Game Cafe, how do I not know about this until now?
Oh, Leon, I can't believe you don't know what it is. You would absolutely love it. And it's not a small, I know, Rachel, you think it's small. There's plenty of seats and tables in there. It's fine. It's a good size and it's a lovely, it is an intimate space, but it's lovely. And I would class that as the Baltic, until the Baltic developed, where the Scandinavian church was always known locally as the Baltic area there,
We're just about pass for that one.
So,
it's a good place. It's a good location and everything.
So while Rachel's listening, Rachel Walker's listening in, who introduced us to this, Rachel. And she says this can be our next day out.
Yeah, you can both play Ludo.
I can teach you some other games as well.
So what's the most popular game in there?
Okay.
Ooh, good question. I think it changes all the time. And I think it depends when it is. So I think one thing, people come in half term when it's families coming in, often we notice that they'll grab things that they're familiar with. So it might be your Monopoly, your Cluedo, the logo game, things that they might have played before because they just want to get going. But I think it also depends on what we're excited about. So I know recently there was a new game called Leaf, which I was so in love with. It was one that I discovered in Canada, and I've had to wait a year for it to arrive. And it's so beautiful, and I've been hyping it up for a year, and then it finally arrived. So everyone was kind of coming in wanting to play that game. So I think it just depends what we've been sort of shouting out about and what the staff are excited about. And yeah, lots of different things. Do I have a favorite? Oh, it depends. It depends what I'm playing games for. Mm-hmm. So I know for my birthday, there's a game called Monica's. It's the most fun ever. Lots of people know a version of it where you kind of write down some famous people and put the names in a bowl, and you take the name out, and the first round is a bit like Articulate. So if I was describing Harry Potter, I might say wizard with a lightning scar, and they have to guess Harry Potter. You sort of go through until you've guessed everybody. Then you do another round with the same names, but you're only allowed one word. So then you might say wizard, and and then hopefully they'll shout out Harry Potter. And then you go through it again with the same names, but it's all charades. And it's just so you've got the same names, you sort of know where you're going with it. It's so much fun. It's really, really great. But like I say, it depends what mood I'm in. If I'm a sucker for a pretty animal game. So anything that's got bunnies on it or anything like that, that's the game for me.
What's your favourite board game, Sam?
So this is a weird one. So funny enough about you saying in Canada. So I lived in Canada, Rachel, till I was just before I was 8 years old. I came to England 7.5, and we used to have board games, lots like Payday, and we used to have a game called Masterpiece. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of it? And they had It was really good, and it's like a board game, and you have all famous paintings, and you bid an auction for them, but it's like a blind auction. I just used to love it. I really enjoyed it. It was a cool game. I used to love board games when I was a kid. But so probably Masterpiece, but no one knows what it is. We used to have a game called Sorry, which came over from England. Yeah, they didn't have that for a while. It was called something else. Like it was a bit like Ludo or something, but now they know it as Sorry, you know. So yes, Leon, we'll definitely grab a coffee there. That'd be lovely. Good shout.
Definitely. So where did your love of board games come from, Rachel?
We played games as a family when I was a child. I mean, your standard things like Monopoly included, but I remember we went on a day out to the Tower of London, and they've got their own board game called Outrage, and I remember us playing that game a lot when we were younger as well. You have to go and steal the crown jewels. So yeah, it's played a lot of games as a family, and then I guess when I moved away from it, and then it was actually an ex-partner was really into games and showed me some more of the kind of modern kind of games, and just opened up my mind to a whole new world. You can literally go and sit there and be a zookeeper, and then the next minute you're running a kitchen, and then it's just fun to play and do something a bit different.
Definitely. So Rachel's favourite game is Balderdash, and we played that, and it was hilarious.
I've never played it.
Oh,
that's hilarious. A good one.
Absolutely hilarious. Yeah. No, I love a board game, and it's like, and I think it's nice when you can play with different people, different ages. It doesn't matter, and get everybody involved. So do you have different sections for different ages, or how does that work?
We haven't separated it in that way. We've literally just alphabetized it, because there's such a minefield. You'll be like, oh yeah, we'll put all the party games together, and then we'll put the strategy games together. There's so many crossovers, and it's like, well, where does this one go? But if people are struggling, we do have like a spreadsheet, a QR code that takes you to a Google sheet, and it lists all of our games. It tells you what the game is about, how long it takes to play, a difficulty rating, how many players. So the kind of, if people are struggling, they can either look there, or all of the staff are into board games. So we're more than happy to be like, this one. Like, you should definitely play this one. Yeah. Brilliant.
And so you said that you had young people in, and they had their birthday party. How does that work?
So they booked a sort of time slot. So I think they were in for 3 hours, and they all had some snack bowls and some nice drinks, and some toasties each. And then they were very self-sufficient and just kind of picked their own games. And I kept trying to ask, I was like, do you need any help? And they were like, no, we're fine. But yeah, so they just came along. I mean, that's how it works generally anyway. And you can just go along and pick up whatever game you like. But we also get people that sort of come along and say, well, we definitely want to play this game. Can you reserve it for us? And we'll pop it to one side. But yeah, so we have quite a few parties that will just book a time slot and then come along and grab the games.
And Rachel, how do you pay? How does it work? Is it like you just pay for what you have and you pay, or do you pay by the minute like one of those places used to do? How does it work?
So we charge by the hour. So at the moment, it's probably going to change next year. But like at the moment, it's £2 an hour per person. So during the week, every Monday we've got like a really big regular group that comes 6 till 10. So it's £8. And then if they bought any food or drinks or anything, that just goes on top of that. So we kind of use a tab system. So if I do recognize people and I know their names, I'll just pop a tab under their name. But if I don't, it's like, there's either a lot of questions about who are you, how do I, or just person in red hoodie, it's like playing this game, sitting at this table. But yeah, and then you just pay at the end when you've finished, because obviously we don't know how long people are going to stay for necessarily. And we often find people will be like, I'm just popping in for an hour, and then 4 hours later they're still in, because the old adage, time flies when you're having fun. It does disappear. So
imagine though, you could take residence and just play games all day. That'd be really cool. Are you open over the Christmas holidays, between Christmas and New Year, or are you closing, or?
We close for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day and Boxing Day, just so that we can have a bit of a break and we can go and visit our families and play some games. We are open for a shorter amount of time on New Year's Eve, and then we close on New Year's Day so that we can all go wild if we want to on New Year's Eve and not have to worry about it the next day.
So what are the opening times of the cafe?
So at the moment it's 2 till 10 on a weekday, and then 12 till 10 on a Saturday, so we've got a little bit longer, and 12 till 8 on a Sunday.
That's good, isn't it?
So
sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say, Rachel, do you have any foreign games? Because I do a lot we teach foreign languages, so we'll do like Spanish Monopoly, Italian Monopoly, and things like that. We do.
Not so much. A lot of games come from Germany. So when we first began, we had a lot of German games because that was just the easiest way to kind of get hold of them. But it's just got a bit easier to get them in English. So most of the games we've sort of slowly replaced into the English copies. A lot of games these days, the rulebook will be printed in various different languages, so it can be used by anybody. So we get a lot of kind of tourists coming, so that's really handy because they can just pick up the rulebook in their language and figure it out, instead of me attempting to teach a game with about the 3 words of Spanish I know, which isn't going to help really.
Oh, okay. I heard you before when you said Spiele des Jahres, like game of the year. So do you speak German?
Oh. Those 3 words. I know those 3 words.
It's cool though. It's quite niche, isn't it? I don't know if there's anywhere else in the city that does it. I know there's somewhere over the water, I believe, but I've not heard of anything in Liverpool that does it other than yours.
There's a couple of places that do sort of different types of gaming. So there's a place that does more collectible card games, like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon and things like that. And then there's another place that does quite big, long war gaming type things. So none of us are doing the same thing. We've all got our own sort of little crowd. So there's a couple of different places, but as far as I know, this is the only place with kind of dedicated board games.
Yeah.
It's a cool.
So do you have regulars who come in all of the time? Do you have? I'm sure
there's some people we can't get rid of. So we do have a lot of regulars, and it's so lovely. We've got people that have been coming from day one, so I've known them for like 7 years, and like I know what job they do, I know about their family. It's like having friends coming to see you all the time. We specifically run every Monday night. We do like an open gaming session. So the idea is that from 6 o'clock, you come down by yourself and just join in with whoever else is there. The idea being kind of post-COVID, people that have been struggling, and it was a kind of, we wanted to try and help combat loneliness, and it was like, here is a space where we will look after you. We're very friendly. There are other people that know and want to play games and will quite happily kind of mix together. And that's been really, really popular actually. So there's a lot of regulars at that event. So I'd probably say about 16 people a week that come most weeks. And again, I know all of the names, and it's a lovely, lovely atmosphere.
It's a lovely way, isn't it, to open up? Sorry, San.
Sorry, I've got loads of questions.
When people, so they're not coming to talk about loneliness, they're coming to play a board game, and then when they play a board game and they're sat with new people and then the conversation opens, it's always nice when people sort of know what they're going to, but the gaming really is the least part of it, isn't it? As we were saying before, it's the communication and the interaction and the everybody getting to know. And lovely that you can just I can't play a board game because I'm on my own. But you can, because you can go on a Monday and meet new friends, and open your world up, your imagination up to so many different things, isn't it?
And I think there's a nice crowd of people that come, but also there's a safety blanket with a board game. So if you're just going to a meetup where you're going for a drink, it can be a bit socially awkward, and you're like, I don't know where to start and I don't know what to talk about. But actually, if you're playing a game, you've always got a focus. So even if the person that you're sat with, you're not, it's not going to be your best friend forever, but you've still got a common interest and you've got something there in front of you to talk about. So if you do run out of things, it's like, oh, okay, so what do we do now? Or, I just think it creates a safety barrier in between you and that other person.
Rachel, does anyone ever go mental, cheat and throw the board in the air? Has that ever happened? I'm not playing this. Or the Scrabble tiles fly across the room. Does anything like that ever happen?
No one's ever thrown anything yet, unless it was part of the game and it tells you to throw something.
In 7 years, that's pretty good. You must have a chilled out venue.
I've definitely heard a fair few arguments, and it can get quite heated. I've literally seen someone storm out and be like, this isn't fun anymore, and like kind of get up and leave, and it's like, this is supposed to be a nice time for you. Pardon?
Amongst families, people have walked out, or when you're with strangers?
I think this was a bunch of friends. There's definitely been couples that have been very frosty with each other when it comes to playing. It's quite funny because it is meant to be a fun thing, and then people do get far too competitive, and you're like, come on, guys, it is just a game.
I had a friend come when I was a kid who played Monopoly and lashed it all over the place. And all I remember is my mum finding the little pieces later going, how did that get there? And the Monopoly, the bits were everywhere. That's the thing. I always think when I worked on the plane, a child threw a load of stuff, a game everywhere. And we were having to pick up the bits from all over the plane. It went in people's wine and everything. So I always think of that potential damage.
Things do get lost, usually by accident. So the funniest one was, there was a little game with these tiny dinosaurs, and somebody came back about half an hour later and went, I just found this in my bra. I don't know how it got there, but it was so, or people will come back 2 days later and be like, I've just found these cards in my bag, and they obviously just fall. And so we're very lucky in that people bring things back, but sometimes you're like, how did that happen?
It ruins the game.
So do you do like a stock take put on each game to make sure that all the pieces and everything are all intact?
We do have a spreadsheet which kind of randomly picks out some games for us to go and check that day. Sometimes we're too busy to actually do it. We have like a little jar behind the till, which is all the missing pieces. So if we found a piece while we're tidying up, we sort of chuck it in the jar. So yesterday somebody was playing a game and they were like, oh, I don't know if you know, but this card is missing. And I was like, I know where it is. So I could just go and get the card for them. Sometimes things fall down behind the shelves. That one's a bit more tricky. That's a long-term job to kind of pull the shelves out and get them back. But people look after the games. We are very lucky.
Yeah. And I think that's all the person who goes, isn't it, into a games cafe is to be a game person and look after it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
So on your website, on your Facebook page, we're going to share all the socials. So we tagged you and everything. You talk about corporate events. How would a corporate event work?
We're quite flexible, so it sort of depends what people want. In the past, we've taken games to the business. So we've had businesses where they've asked us to go in, and we've taken all of our sort of cooperative games. Yeah. So the idea is that everybody's working together to kind of win this game and work on their team building skills. But equally, we've had people come to us, similar thing. Like the last couple of things that we've had, they've sort of almost had a meeting first and had this exclusive use of the space, and then had a couple of hours afterwards to play some games. We've had a feat Christmas parties, obviously, in the last couple of weeks where there's been a lot of drinking. So that's a lot noisier, but great fun. But usually we're quite happy for people to sort of say, this is what we're trying to get from the event. Are there games that you would recommend, or is there a certain... we'll pull out things that we think are appropriate.
That's a cool party, isn't it? Like a cool Christmas. If you're having a meeting and you could all have a meeting and then you chill and you all have a little game afterwards. It's good, isn't it?
It's an unusual thing to do, isn't it? Like for work and things like that. not everyone wants to go to a club and do the can or whatever, So
you'll find out a lot about. Sorry. So you'll find a lot out about your colleagues when you're playing games. Like, it's always the quiet ones that are super vicious at the strategy games, or, brings a different side out in people.
Definitely. Can people share? Isn't it? Can you share? Are you a kind person?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's a really, really cool place.
Sorry, do you have kids' games, Rachel, like Kaplunk and things like that?
Yep, we've got games for children from 2 years plus, 2.5 years plus, I think it is. So the really little kids' games are sort of designed for a parent to play with the child. So they're kind of 2 people games, and it's kind of time where a parent sort of sits and guides them through the rules. But yeah, we've got games for all ages. We don't get that many kids coming in, which surprises people, to the point where people ring up and ask if they're allowed to bring children, and it's like, yeah, we've got games for all people. But it does generally speaking, it's more adults. Even in the school holidays, will be a lot busier, but it's the teachers and the support staff and everybody that's in there. So we are very family friendly, but I would say mostly it's adults that are coming at them.
I might take my nephews. I would love it. Rachel, did you train to teach primary or secondary?
It was secondary. So I did secondary food technology. So I had the kind of the food manufacturing sort of background. So that was kind of gave me the framework, I guess, to kind of get going. So that's always been, I've been familiar with food hygiene procedures and working with different food manufacturers and allergens and all of that exciting stuff. So
that's why you like the young people when they came in the other day and everything, and that you're obviously drawn to people and help them do teamwork, but with quite a holistic approach as well. And you make them cake.
What more?
And I think it's very different working with groups of young people like that when you're not the teacher. So I think that's why it was so lovely, because it wasn't, they were just very chatty. I wasn't I wasn't that person that's going to tell them off. It was like they were lovely. They were so lovely.
Yeah, I just think it's a really cool thing to be able to go in, play, and we sort of look the technology is amazing, isn't it? Technology is a phenomenal thing, but quite a lot of it is gaming on phones or gaming on computer screens and speaking to somebody who's in the other part of the world or around wherever they live. So even though they're communicating, they're still quite sort of insular, aren't they? Because you're playing game. Whereas I think an old-fashioned board game where you sit down, you open it, the excitement of this piece opens those conversations. And I think a lot of adults do it because it takes them back, doesn't it, to childhood? And being able to be silly and being able to roar laughing and experience those things in a safe environment that you said before,
Yeah, because a lot of the games you can play them on your phone. A lot of people come in and go, oh yeah, I've played that on my phone, but I do think it's a very different experience to get the game out, and it's very tactile, and some of the games nowadays are so beautiful, and they're just so well produced, and you've got all these lovely clanky pieces, and I don't know, there's just something so magical about having that physical game in front of you rather than, oh, I've just pressed a button on my phone.
Yeah.
And a lot of the games have a solo mode and you can play by yourself. But to me personally, that's not what it's about. It's about being there with some friends and having a chuckle. My Christmas Day will absolutely be spent with friends playing games all day. And that's what we do every year. And it's just, we have such a laugh.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's gorgeous. Yeah.
What a lovely thing to do. We'll definitely have to go. I'll play Cluedo with you, Helen.
Thank you. I'll play Kaplunk with you.
Kaplunk?
I love Kaplunk.
I always wanted to play. Andre B had Kaplunk. We used to go to her house to play it.
And Connect 4 and Downfall.
Downfall? I forgot about it.
Yeah, they were sort of like childhood memory, and Battleships.
What a nice thing to do, though, with a kid over Christmas or something, take them down in the school holidays. I think it's a lovely idea. Brilliant. And it's not far from John Lewis, is it? You walk up.
About 3 minutes. Yeah, not far at all.
coffee, cake, little board game.
Or
Because
tea.
you'll talk as well, you know, you'll have more conversations with everybody. So yeah, definitely. Cool. I love it. Well, thank you, Rachel, for sharing that with us. We'll share all of the links on our socials, and everybody go over and like Rachel's page, and pop in and have a coffee and play a board game.
Nice to support an independent business as well.
100%, 100%. So we have red face moment. I'm gonna confess, Sandra and I's red face from last week. So we'd booked our guest in advance, and then Sandra had a meeting, so we moved it to the Wednesday night. And then we said to our guest, don't forget, and they said, oh no, it's Tuesday, and we said, oh no, it's Wednesday this week, and they were going the football.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
So we didn't have a guest in the end. So apologies, that's our red face for that week. But Sandra has got a belter of a red face.
Or two.
Or two. Go on.
So this is horrendous. And I hadn't had one for a while, so I thought I'm due a good one here. So basically, I made a wreath and it looked a shed. So I ordered some items online and I went to Dunelm Mill to collect them in Garston. So when I went to Street, got feedback. And they were nice. They were £22. I bought one. I bought all my other stuff, all these presents I picked up that I'd ordered these items. Walked out. As I was going out, I thought, oh, there's the small wreaths, because they said little wreaths £12. And there was some lovely cushions as well. So I'm rummaging through these boxes and I can see this guy's, I can feel eyes burning in the side of my head. So I looked and this guy's glaring at me. So I looked up and it said, from our home to yours, these items are new or nearly new, donated by people to make your home lovely. So people are donating wreaths and cushions and Christmas decorations in these tubs, and they weren't for sale at all. So like I was rifling through things for a food bank, but a home bank, if you like. And I'd had all this shopping, so I was absolutely mortified. I think he thought I was like stealing these items. So I was like, oh my God, no. So I scurried along quickly. Like, I didn't even laugh though. I couldn't laugh because I was like, bad. So I just got in the car. I rang Helen and I texted Helen and I said, when we do the show, ask me about Dunelm Mill. So that was the one on Sunday. Then last night we go to this. I was mortified. Last night we go to this beautiful event at the Palm House. They've got this bird cage. It's called The Exhibition, and as Helen spoke about it earlier, just go over. It's on winter. Is it till Christmas Eve or after?
No, it's until the 21st. It's until next Thursday.
Next Thursday. Oh, so you've only got till next Thursday. Just go. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's just such a beautiful place. Anyway, so I know a few people there, and I get introduced to this lady who's called, and they went, "This is Sandra," and I was going, "I know you," and she's going, "I know you," and we're trying to work out. Sure. Anyway, we're talking, and then they go, Sandra, come up for a photograph. So I went, and then I looked at the people, and I thought, I only know you. I thought, it's not me. And I turned to her and I went, your name's Sandra, isn't it? And she said, yeah. And I said, I think they want you to have your photo taken. So I'm on a roll this week, completely and utterly. I'm absolutely on a roll. I was mortified. So, again, you cried laughing when I told you.
I couldn't move. I was just thinking, imagine walking over to get your photograph. Oh, no, the other Sandra.
Well, thank God I stopped a meter short.
You should have just taken your picture anyway.
I'm here.
Yeah. So I was in hysterics, and I think karma has come round a little bit. So Sandra phoned me with the two red faces when we were together last night, so I was just roaring laughing. Anyway, today I took my nephew to an open day. So it was in town. I picked him up. We went there, and the place was in darkness. So I said, "Oh, it looks all shut up." It looks all good. So anyway, I knocked on the door, and there were 3 lads in there. And I said, "No," I said, "is there not an event here today?" And he said, "Oh, there's been a big power cut in the area." So maybe, I said, "they haven't sent us the email then, to say it's been cancelled." I said, "Am I in the right building? Just need to double check," and showed him the ticket. And he went, "Oh, yeah, but it's on Thursday."
You're born
Really. So yeah, so we're going back on Thursday. I'll take that. Anyway, he just laughed. I was like, "Sorry, mate." So he thought it was hilarious as well. So that was our red face, was that we went on the wrong day. What about you, Rachel?
I was saying before, it takes me ages to remember people. So we have people that pop into the cafe, and it genuinely takes me about 6 months to remember who this person is. And I quite often just sort of say, "Oh, have you been before?" And the number of times that people have gone, "Yeah, you've served me every week for about 6 months." And it takes that embarrassment for me to be like, "Right, I know who you are now." Like I need to embarrass myself to register who that person is. But it's absolutely mortifying. It's like, or I'll guess wrong and I'll be like, "Oh, you've been before, haven't you?" And they're like, "No." I just need to stop guessing. Just not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Stephen Fry has it as well. I have it, but Stephen Fry has it really badly. It's like 10 times at least, you know.
Which is hilarious.
It's not funny. That guy, that time, and I said, "Lovely to meet you," and he said, "You sat opposite me at last week's meeting," and I was like, "Oh." I've never seen you before in my life.
You made a great impression.
It's mortifying, yeah. I was like, he was so annoyed.
Yeah. Never mind. Shout out to the grown-ups, any grown-ups who've done amazing things this week. I'm going to shout out to my Auntie B. So Uncle Ron listens in, and Auntie B's his wife, and it is her birthday tomorrow. So I am going to give her a shout out because it is her 90th birthday tomorrow. So happy birthday. Happy birthday, yeah. And I'm going over on Saturday, so that's cool. Yeah, to see them. What about you, Sam?
I'm going to give a shout out to, we've got a lovely friend, Shalene, who's gorgeous, and she's a very strong person. So just that, we're thinking of her at the moment.
Yeah. What about you, Rachel?
So we've got a brand new manager in the cafe. I think it's week 3. And bless him, he has done such an amazing job. And 3 weeks in, he has just taken the reins, and I've had a week off, and it's just been amazing. And I'm very, very grateful because it was long overdue. So thank you to him.
Brilliant. Well, so pop in and say hello to everyone. Well done. And whose is the dog?
Oh, it's just a customer's dog. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So we're dog friendly, yeah. So you can bring your doggies along as well, we love it when people bring their dogs in.
Yeah. So there you go. Our pops might go in. Brilliant. Okay. What book podcast are you reading at the moment? I am just going to get mine up because I can't remember the name of it. Go on, Rach, you can go first.
Listening to anything at the minute?
So I've been obsessed with a podcast this year. Spotify does its Unwrapped thing, and apparently I've listened to it for a ridiculous number of minutes. But it's called Tony and Ryan. It's an Australian podcast, and they just talk nonsense, and it's just perfect if you just need something to switch off to. It's the perfect thing to sort of listen along to.
Brilliant. What about you, Sam?
Well, I've been listening to the Diary of a CEO as usual. I've done about 3 this week, and it's a dead interesting one. It's the man who followed Elon Musk everywhere. It was on the 30th of November. It was really good. The 1.5 hours, the podcast, he does one a week. They're just brilliant. Really good.
So I'm reading, no, I'm not reading at all, I'm telling fibs. I'm still reading Never Split the Difference, but I'm listening to Clear Thinking by Shane Parrish, which is very, very good. So he was on the High Performance podcast, and I listened to him on that, and then they recommended his book. So it's just about being clear in your thoughts and making your decisions and knowing what you need when you're making those decisions, and not having all the head buzz around you. So it's very interesting, very good. Yeah, cool. Okay, massive thank you to Rachel for joining us this evening. We know you've been super busy. Everybody go down to the cafe have a coffee, play some board games, take loads of photos, share it on social. And I think a Monday night's a lovely, lovely thing to do. If you're ever feeling a little bit and just think, oh, do you know what? I just want to pop down on a Monday, because you'll get to meet new friends and new people. Rachel, we're going to hand it over to you to close the show. So massive thank you to Sandra, massive thank you to you, Rachel. And mantra, closing quote, a little something that you want to leave everybody with.
So it's not a very articulate quote, but something that I really like from my therapy world is, you know, we all strive to kind of be perfect, and it can be quite stressful. And the sort of thing that I try to remember and try to tell people is we only need to be good enough. We don't need to be perfect.
Yeah, I love that. Good enough. Yeah, brilliant. So massive thank you, and we will see everybody next week for a Christmas special.
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
Yeah. Because I'm volunteering Tuesday night.
Next week then, okay, before it's our last Christmas one. So Sandra and I will have a little bit of Christmas cheer and go through the year. Okay. Thank you, Rachel, and good luck with everything that you're doing. Thank you very much, and we'll see everybody next week.